What's going on, Daytona fans? In this video, I'm going to be replacing the thermostat. Now, as you can tell right there on the left above the fuel gauge is my temperature gauge, and it hasn't really moved a whole lot. I've been driving the Ranger for more or less a half an hour now, and in any vehicle after about a half an hour operation, it should have already gone up to its operating temperature. What this means is that the thermostat is most likely stuck open, therefore the coolant is unable to heat up to its operating temperature. Alright guys, we have to get this pan under where the thermostat is because coolant is going to come out. I'm replacing the thermostat, and basically that controls the coolant going in and out of the engine block. It's going to start leaking through, and I want to catch it because obviously it's illegal to just let it drain to the ground. I have the new one right here, and what we're going to have to do is going to have to take off this cover, this intake tube, disconnect this tube from the intake, pull the whole intake aside. The thermostat is actually right there. The thermostat is under this cover. Now we've got this bolt here, and a third one on the other side of the intake. Alright, now that we have the intake tube removed, we have to remove the bracket for this wiring harness right here, because this is the harness that's laying right on top of the housing, and we're going to need to loosen that up. You'll need a deep 13-inch socket because of the extra thread right here. A regular socket is not going to reach. Alright, now that this is out, I'm going to remove the throttle body. You don't have to, but if you don't have the right tools like I don't, it's going to make your life a whole lot easier. And it's 4 of these tiny bolts. All 4 bolts have been removed. As you can tell, it's freely moving. I just realized I have to take this piece off because it is preventing me from moving it any further than that. So once I get this piece off, I'll be able to just flip the whole throttle body over onto the manifold. Alright, this piece has been removed. It's just a plastic piece that plugs right into that hole right there. Now that this is free, I can just go ahead and flip it over. Alright guys, in the interest of work smart, not hard, I ended up removing this harness off of the alternator. So you have one plug here, a 10mm bolt that goes right in there, and then a third tiny plug that goes right here. Now that this is out of the way, as you can see, I freely have access to it. Before it was like that. Now I can just push this aside, and now I have all the space to work with. Alright, after a lot of finessing, I finally got all 3 bolts off. Here's the housing. Once the bolts come off, you just have to wiggle this loose, and off comes the housing, and there's the thermostat. So let's get it replaced. Now in order to pop it out, all you're going to do is put a screwdriver in and pry upwards. I had already done that prior. That's why it looks like it had already popped out. So what you gotta do is remove the old one, out with the old, in with the new. Now make sure when you buy a new thermostat that you buy a new gasket as well, because the old one is no good. I don't know if you can tell, but the edges are a little bit frayed, and you never want to reuse a gasket, especially one like this, because if you do, you are going to end up with leaks, and you're gonna have to end up taking everything apart again just to replace this gasket. So always buy a new one. Alright, everything's plugged back in, as you can see. So now all I gotta do is top off the coolant, because some of it did come out. Now, if you're wondering how much, about that much, not too much. So I'm going to refill it. Hopefully there won't be too much burping necessary, but I am going to run it up to operating temperature just to make sure that it is working the way it should be. Alright, now that we got everything fixed, we're going to have to burp the system. And I've seen a lot of videos where they don't tell you this, but you have to burp the system. And it's exactly what it sounds like. We're gonna open up the radiator right now, put this funnel right over it, add some additional coolant, and let the car run. That way, any air pockets will come out of this funnel. And by the time we're done, the entire system will be full of coolant and there won't be any air pockets. Now, the reason you don't want air pockets is because where there's an air pocket, there's no cooling. So you're damaging your engine and any other components in there that's got pockets of air. And if you don't breathe it out, if you don't burp it out, then at some point, other components will break and you're gonna be spending more money than you want to, especially when it's just a $20 thermostat. So I'm going to show you how that works with this particular funnel. This is brand new, so I haven't even opened it yet. So all you have to do is open up this first bag, which will give you things like this open cut cap. All you have to do is just match it up to the radiator. And the only thing you got to do is just to put it on and twist it. See if it comes on at all. And if it doesn't, like this one, we're going to move on to the next one until we find one that does. This is a generic kit, so you're not going to find the perfect fit, and you are not going to find a manufacturer specific. However, this is a kit that does cover most cars in the United States, domestic, foreign, anything like that. All you have to do is just figure out which one it is, and we're gonna get right to that right now. Looks like this works, and it's letter number B. So if you have yourself a Ford Ranger or probably any Ford, you're gonna want to use cap B. Now that we've got that figured out, we're gonna find a fitting to go over it. And it's the same idea. There are just a ton of these fittings, and you're gonna figure out which one fits in there best. All right, so we found one that fits, and it looks like this. So how you know it fits is when you put it on here, and then you put the cap over and turn it over, it's a snug fit. Nothing moves. The yellow piece doesn't move, the cap doesn't move, there's no loose play. So now that that's done, I'm gonna put the funnel in here and add some coolant. And the great thing about this funnel is that there's a plunger. So when you're done, you're going to have excess coolant. So when you're done, all you have to do is put the plunger in, lift it up, and it keeps the coolant in here without making a mess out here. So why don't I fill that up and show you right now. Now with the coolant, you don't want to fill it all the way because you got to give it some room to burp and not make a mess. So I would say that's good for starting, and of course we're going to monitor it. As it burps, it's going to take in the coolant from this funnel, and if we need to add in more, we just add in more. And when we're done, all we have to do is take this plunger, put it in there, lift it up. See how it keeps the coolant inside? No mess. Well, a little bit of a mess, but a lot less than if you just lift it up without the plunger. So why don't we start her up and see how the burping process works. All right, so now the burping process has begun. In a little bit, we're gonna see some bubbles come up. We're gonna see some coolant go down. And after about 20 to 30 minutes, the system should have burped already, because at that point, the thermostat will have opened and cycled through with the hot coolant and replacing it with the cold coolant. You see that, guys? The system is burping. That means the thermostat has turned on and is cycling through the coolant. And this is proof. You have to burp your system. See all that air that's coming out? If you don't burp it, you're gonna damage other components. So we're gonna let it burp a little bit more until it stops pretty much, and then we'll be done. All right, so I've let Mossback run for about 40 minutes now, and I think all the air bubbles are out of the system. I'm gonna give it one more squeeze. And it looks pretty good. It looks like it's just the fluid coming out, no air bubbles. So now we're gonna plunge it and put it back in to the container. You know what? I'm going to do this on the ground. There's no flat surface here. Alright, now this is empty. We're going to put all the extra fittings in here. Now the great thing about this funnel kit is that it comes with a cap. So all you have to do is cap it. But before I do that, I'm going to remove the fitting that's right there on the Ranger right now. Now it is safe to remove because it is an open end cap. The closed cap, the original one, tells you not to open it after it's been running because it's under pressure. But because we've been using a funnel, we haven't been giving it any pressure at all. So in order to remove it, you just take it out the same way it went in. Put that in there. Cap that up. All right, now that's topped off, all we have to do is put the original cap back on, and we're done bleeding the system. Now it is all important, guys, remember to always burp out your system after any kind of coolant system repair. You know, whether it's replacing your radiator, thermostat, a hose, doesn't matter. As long as you're exposing the coolant system to open air, there will be pockets and you have to burp it out. Now some of you may be wondering, why did I put old coolant back with new coolant to mix it up? Well, that's going to be my spare coolant jug, so I'm not really going to be worried about that. Come springtime, I will be replacing the radiator fluid. That is the last fluid on this truck that I haven't replaced yet. I've replaced the differential, transmission, and oil. I haven't done the brake fluid yet, so I may do that as well. But the radiator is definitely an important piece. You don't want dirty old coolant running around because it will clog up the system and the cooling capability will be lowered. So you are at more risk of overheating the engine using old dirty coolant. But since it's winter time, that's not going to happen, especially with my short commute to work. Again, this is not going to be a highway car. Not that I know of, at least, but I still would like to have everything up and running correctly. Alright, Daytona fans, I hope you enjoyed this video. If you found it entertaining or educational, please give me a like, and of course subscribe because it does help the channel grow. And until the next one, have a great day. Peace.